Welcome to a special highlight episode of the Made in America podcast. I'm Ari Santiago. Over the last several months, I've had the great pleasure of interviewing manufacturing leaders from across Connecticut. And they've shared with us some of their amazing successes, as well as how they've overcome various challenges. I've gone through these episodes and I've selected certain clips around a specific topic that I think can drive some real value. I hope you enjoy what I put together here. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss it. On this highlight episode, I've pulled out clips surrounding workforce development. It's a tremendous topic for manufacturers all across the state of Connecticut about how we can find and fill that pipeline of talent. Our guests have had some really interesting takes on this topic. I'm excited to share them with you. Welcome to the Made in America podcast, episode 2. Really excited to have Paul Lavoie, general manager of Carey Manufacturing, on with us. So what's Carey doing, to recruit and retain, high quality employees?
Yeah, so we, for a very long time, have been very, very active in in kind of the workforce development community. So we have a philosophy at Carey Manufacturing that any organization would like to bring a group of students or people who are interested in manufacturing on a tour, you call us, we're happy to host it.
Okay.
So we host tours on a regular and consistent basis.
What age groups would you host
We've
for?
done middle school, so we've had middle school
Yep.
manufacturing camps come out to, as part of their week-long camp in the summer.
Sure.
Tour a manufacturer. We'll do a cookout for them. We'll do hot dogs, hamburgers, and we have if you think of, we used to manufacture in Connecticut, and then we stopped, and then we had to restart again. So when we restarted again, we have a very young manufacturing, we have force on, kind of workforce on our manufacturing floor. Our Trump machines are run by a 24-year-old woman.
Okay.
So that we hired out of the technical school system. We just actually hired a younger sister.
Oh,
because
nice.
They're both brilliant. And
Okay.
And besides, we're all family.
That's
anyway,
right, exactly. Yeah.
So-
you guys have learned hiring in the family works, so
Exactly.
why not replicate?
So,
Sure.
So we have a aging workforce because
Yep.
on the Amatom side, we have people that have been there for a very long time, and we have a very young workforce. So when you bring those kids in, you bring the, younger workers, you bring the young workforce into.
Have you found that to be successful? I mean, I think people would love to have a younger workforce, right? There's obviously you read the articles as well as I do talking about that. So how has that worked out for you guys?
So at the risk of giving up all my secrets,
Yes.
So when you do that and you have that kind of philosophy and you're willing to help people grow from a workforce development perspective, people who run those programs know what you can do. So when we need to hire somebody, we'll call the people that run those programs and say, we need to hire somebody. We're looking entry level. Who's your best student? Oh, I know who to send you.
Gotcha.
And they send us the cream of the crop of their classes to say, I've got a great job for you. You get
and not only the cream of the crop, but probably the cream of the crop in the areas that Carey cares about the most, right? Because now they've got to know you. So it might not be like who I don't even know how they measure the objectively best student, but it's the person that knows the machines or the processes that you guys have that they know to send you to reduce your retraining or custom training, I would imagine.
Correct. So from a workforce development standpoint, we have staffing challenges like everybody else.
Sure.
I've often said Connecticut is a workforce and jobs in search of a workforce.
Yes.
We have lots of jobs. We just don't have a trained workforce. But I think it's, in the manufacturing space, it's incumbent upon the manufacturers to work with the educators and our education system to make sure that we're providing the right curriculum and right opportunities to meet those demands of the workforce, right? I can't sit there as a manufacturer and say, I need workers and not put my skin in the game.
Right.
And say,
what kind of workers do you need?
And so we serve on board, I'm on the Tunxus Community College Advanced Manufacturing Board.
Okay.
I'm on the Bristol Technical Advisory Committee Board. Where Pete Egan, our director of HR, is, I went to a breakfast with Pete Egan and we got the Employer of the Year. And so with my first year there, I thought this was great. Pete was kind of like poo-pooing it. I'm like, Pete, I'm the employer of the year. This is great. So then I take the award to go put in our case and realize that we've been the employer of the year for the last 4 years.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, what are you like the Tom Brady?
Right. Doesn't care anymore.
Development? You just won your 6th MVP out of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. What's new? What's new?
So, but that's, that's.
Is there anything that you think Carey's doing that's unique or interesting or particularly interesting to recruit? I mean, one thing that I noticed kind of looking at your guys' LinkedIn was a large number of like females in the workforce. And I think, just for somebody like myself, for example, who listens to Warren Buffett a lot, he talks about how, the growth of women in the workforce is just going to be a huge driver because there was for so many years so much untapped talent, energy, and potential. It seems like you guys are found a way to recruit that. Any special, secrets there or anywhere, that you guys think is interesting?
Yeah, it's interesting. So CNN Money did an article on Carey Manufacturing about women in the workforce.
Okay.
And how, at this small manufacturer, women rule the floor. And on a manufacturing floor. And when they asked us, my comment was, I wish we did it on purpose.
Okay.
Because we didn't. What we did, and I think what we did is reflective of what I think every employer should do, is that we hired the best person that came through the door.
Sure.
Right? We really looked at what do we need to have done? Who's going to be the most qualified person to do that? And that's irrespective of anything. Never mind gender. It's of anything. And then how do we have have an environment where that person can grow and thrive and do all of that.
Sure.
So Millie, when I was talking about the 24-year-old that runs, she couldn't find a job because she couldn't lift 50 pounds. That the requirements are, if you're going to work in a manufacturing floor, you have to lift 50 pounds. Well, we found a guy that can lift 50 pounds. Millie can tell somebody to lift 50 pounds really well.
That's right. That's
really
right.
well. And so if you got to look at some kind of that criteria to make.
What are some of the legacy things
hiring.
that we're looking for in jobs that maybe we don't need?
So you can't lift 50 pounds, but you tell him to do it. And it's the same thing. I mean, we have we hired somebody to work on a second shift to run those machines, and she doesn't weigh 110 pounds soaking wet. Right. And but how does she change 4x6 sheets of aluminum or steel on our machines? She tells him to do it.
Someone else could do it.
Can you change that sheet for me? Right. He can't run that machine.
Right.
She can.
So
she can't change the sheet.
Little teamwork makes the dream work kind of deal.
And by the way, he's doing something else. He has another job, but he comes over for 15 minutes to do that. So
find a way to make it work.
And if we didn't do that, we wouldn't have hired these people, and we wouldn't be where we are today because they're brilliant.
They're really driving.
Really
that.
smart. They're smart people. Yeah.
That's exciting. And so just sort of some takeaways on that I heard was really engaging in the training system early. Making sure to do it intentionally, kind of thinking outside the box and not pigeonholing yourself into like these job descriptions that might be looking for too much, right? Sounds like you can kind of streamline
hire talent, and just, it's like an NFL draft strategy, right? Take the best player available.
And then just go from there.
And then figure out what you're going to do.
But if you have good people, they'll work it out.
Right. So we were just trying to take the best player available. So,
that's exciting. Yeah. We're here with Jason Howie, President and CEO of OK Industries. I know you guys have been fantastic with New Britain High School, even, and really, offering tours. Anyone ever wants to come through, you guys are into it. We actually had, we work with the Connecticut Science Center at an event. We had a culture event, actually. Michelle Tenzar, your CFO, ran into someone at Science Center. They reached out and said, hey, we'd love to do a STEM education course. We'd like to take some kids through a manufacturer. Do you think Michelle would be open to it? And I'm like, I think she would love it. Connected them. I think they're working through that. So just talk about, number one, investing in taking tours for high school kids and elementary school kids. That's a long-term play. Talk about your workforce development thoughts and what you guys are doing and how we can do more in that area.
So my top 3 things that keep me up at night are workforce, and workforce.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So there's just not enough people going into the field.
Okay.
Particularly in I'm going to call it the skilled labor piece in terms of CNC machinists, tool and die makers, your real your technical problem solvers. But it's the area that it kind of really drives your business more than just about anything. And
so we talked about people, right?
Between Silver Tsunami.
Yep.
So you have to replace with what you have, number one, but then you need additional people to grow. Right. So we're getting it from both ends. I'll give you an example. We have a employee referral program. So if someone recommends a new employee, they come and they stay at OK for at least 6 months, they get a $1,000 bonus.
That does not stink.
Right. Well, so if someone knows and recommends a tool and die maker that comes to work at OK and they stay for at least 6 months, we'll give you a $5,000 bonus.
That's even better.
Guess how many referrals we've had in the past 3 years?
I'm going to guess it's a low.
One.
One?
There's not that many out there. So,
and you think that's not a function of people not wanting to do it? It's a function of just you can't refer what you don't have.
It's supply and demand.
Yeah,
pure.
Yeah.
So, we're actually doubling down on our apprenticeship program. We've got 4 apprentices right now. We basically took our very best tool and die maker. 50% of his time is all training, and we also actually hired a training coordinator. So we're actually having to add overhead because we have no choice.
Right.
And we are doing a lot of.
How does someone, just real quickly, if someone wanted to be an apprentice or was interested in getting involved in that, what is the background someone needs to get into an apprenticeship program? How would they even start doing that?
Most people are promoting it and they're looking for it. But the thing is that people need to say, are they the right fit for it? Okay. So one of the first things we do is we actually give a mechanical aptitude test.
Okay.
So those people that used to like to take their bike or their lawnmower apart and then put it back together just because they thought it was fun. That's a good tool and die maker. That is a person who'll be great at manufacturing.
Apparently, if I want a new gig, I could be because that was my thing. Yeah. I didn't always be able to put it back together. So
yeah, but that's really just your problem solving.
Yeah,
and
totally.
It's hands-on and very mechanically oriented.
Yep.
So that's a key requirement, and also just certain behaviors, ability to learn.
Sure.
Some of the other kind of core competencies. But
have you been finding success there? And do people that go into the apprenticeship program, have they generally been working at OK in like an assembly or another role and moved over, or they've come in just for apprenticeship? Like, how does that both?
We've had both actually.
Okay.
We've had some people in our finishing assembly, which is they showed a tremendous amount of mechanical aptitude. They passed all the tests. They say this is what they want to do, and they're willing to invest in the company and in themselves to do that. So,
someone who's looking to be a tool and die maker and get into that program, what kind of a career does that look like? I mean, is this something that really is a well-paying job that's interesting? Talk a little bit about that.
Your top tool and die makers are making north of $40 an hour.
Okay.
So with there's certainly a 6-figure income.
Wow. I'd say that's a pretty good, that's a pretty good job.
With no college debt.
With no college debt. Where do you see that either private industry or government should be putting more money into workforce development? Or should they?
It's very broken. I think the workforce, particularly in Connecticut, is tremendously broken. It's incredibly fragmented. Most of it's being mandated by how and what populations can be serviced by the money that's coming down from the feds.
Got it.
And states just aren't investing a lot of money. At least Connecticut's not. 16 other states are investing a lot. As an example, Rhode Island actually has a war chest, they're smaller than we are, of $70 million for workforce development, and it's all employer driven. So think about it. Its employer is the partner, and it's really the customer for the workforce side.
Yeah. Going back to your whole thing about know the customer.
They're actually driving in terms of here's the skill sets that we need, because it changes all the time. Absolutely. And you have to be that dynamic. Mm-hmm. So it's there's a lot of talk in Connecticut. What it needs is leadership.
Do you think the manufacturing czar that's starting is going to help that? Having somebody at a high level that can actually hopefully be more nimble? Do you have hope that'll help us?
I think it's going to depend a lot on who the person is and how they actually get it done. But a lot of people ask me about the manufacturing czar, but that came out of everybody's frustration about how fragmented it is, and whether that's the right solution or not is yet to be seen. I think it really depends on how it shapes and who actually fills the role. But we've had more commissions and more discussions about workforce, and there's it's all talk, no action, and that's
not good.
I mean, I'm done with commissions.
That's right.
I can't do them anymore.
That's right.
Because there's been too many times I spend all my time. Everybody comes up with great ideas, and then nothing ever happens.
Right. We need to move from idea making to action.
And what you start out with may not be something. Might be perfect, but you got to do something.
Well, it goes back to the whole R&D conversation, right? Like, do something, fail fast, fix it, and move on again. Real excited to have Chris Jewell from Collins & Jewell here today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your kind of recruiting and retention. Mm-hmm. I know that you've been a lot involved in kind of workforce development. So talk a little bit about your participation. I know you're on the board of Three Rivers Community College. You've done stuff with the Eastern Connecticut workforce. Yep. So just talk about kind of what your participation has been there and what you see in terms of building the workforce.
So we've all identified a problem of aging workforce in our industry.
In the state in general, maybe.
Right. And in our industry particularly, I mean, the average age of a welder is 55 years old. 10 years from now, we're in trouble, bottom line. So we have to plan for that. So really my philosophy and Collins & Jewell's philosophy through that process has been, you can't complain about the problem if you're not willing to be part of the solution.
Sure.
So really what I chose to do is engage myself into Three Rivers Community College, the Workforce Investment Board in Eastern Connecticut, EWIB it's called, and EMA, which is Eastern Advanced Manufacturing Alliance. And those three worlds there So EMA, for those who don't know, is a consortium of about 72 manufacturers, relatively east of the Connecticut River. We have some coming. We're actually growing to the west a little bit, which is nice. But we all have a common problem, and it's workforce development. So,
do you think that that's EMA's number one focus is workforce development?
Absolutely. I mean, we do lessons learned with each other on other things, but really workforce development is the core that keeps us together.
Okay.
Because even if you're a competitor, you still have the same problem.
Correct.
So it really has worked well.
You're all fishing in the same pond. So if the pond's running out of fish, everybody needs to restock it.
Exactly.
So where do you see that going? I mean, I've heard people kind of offhandedly say, Connecticut doesn't really have a job problem. What we have is a workforce problem, right? We've got jobs in search of people.
Yes, that's very true.
Is that you agree with that?
That's very, very true.
And that you're seeing that in your business, and even people are seeing that.
Absolutely.
So where are those? Where are the people? How are you developing?
Well, so what's happened is EWIB has created what they call the Manufacturing Pipeline Initiative, MPI, and the MPI basically allows people who are unemployed or underemployed to go through a portal and basically register to become part of this Manufacturing Pipeline Initiative. They do a certification test where we kind of find out where their base level of skills are, and then based on that, we'll maybe either put them into some remediation or we'll put them right into what we call the Manufacturing Pipeline Program. So that program is a 15 to 18 week program where they learn either intro to manufacturing, welding, drafting, electrical. We have all different disciplines that they can learn. And it basically puts them at a base level of skills where all employers can hire them. And then those employers, once they hire them, can sprinkle their special sauce on them.
And what kind of jobs are these people looking for? Or would they get when they come out?
So the best part, the only reason this works as well as it does is because we have a high demand employer in electric boat that needs a lot of people. So in our portal, we have 8,000 people that have registered.
Oh, wow.
So there's a huge amount of people that want to participate.
Okay.
Now, I may hire 10 of them.
Right.
Which isn't enough. So you need to have that major employer.
But if you got 70 people in EMA, right, and if they could average 10, that's 700.
That's right.
That's 700 people right there.
Right. But keeping that large employer to keep it engaged is important because you want these people to succeed. You want these people to get jobs, tell their friends about it, so they go join the portal. So it just
how long does it take them to go through the training program, and what kind of job are they?
Yeah, it's 15 to 18 weeks, and
super reasonable.
Yeah, and your technical jobs. You're talking. It could be anything from welding. It could be anything from fitting, outside machinists. They call it at EB. We've hired draftspeople out of the program. We've hired quality engineers out of the program.
Good paying jobs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so, EB definitely wants to make sure this succeeds because they have a huge volume of work that they've got to do. So the compensation level is definitely, none of us worry about this whole minimum wage thing.
Yeah, that's not on the radar.
None of us worry about that.
And what do you think are the challenges in building the workforce? Because everyone's still talking about it. I've been engaged with you in EMA for like a little bit. And it's been going on for a few years. We're talking. Do you see it improving? Do you see that? I mean, are we adding? I mean, certainly there's people getting in the field. There's no question about that. Are we adding jobs or potential job openings faster than we can get people in? Are we catching up? Where do you see that?
Well, I think this is the calm before the storm because EB's really growth is going to be in the next 4 or 5 years once they finish their South Yard retrofit to do the Columbia class boat. So then they're going to be needing thousands of people every year. So
every year
they'll need thousands of people. Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. And Sikorsky's the same way. Pratt & Whitney's the same way.
In addition to the 10 that you need,
that's right.
There's these other thousands.
Exactly.
On this episode of Made in America, I'm with Linda Pergodich from Atlas Stamping.
Oh, it's very, very difficult right now to find qualified people.
Okay. Qualified meaning experienced?
Experienced, technically experienced, any hands-on experience. You can't find any quality assurance managers or inspectors. Quality engineers are very, very difficult. So we're home growing them.
Are you?
Yes, with the help of the state, do the Department of Labor apprenticeship program, pre-apprentice program. They're also Goodwin College has a program. So we're
East Hartford, right?
Yes, East Hartford. We're sending an inspector there to go through their grassroots.
So somebody inside Atlas organization that's showing some opportunity or some ability and some desire, and you guys are saying, hey, let's get you in some school and how to help grow that.
So we have to grow within, but we also, as the state of Connecticut, we have to come together. We have to make sure that the high schools they took tech out of
high schools.
Out of high schools. They're coming back, but we really need to make sure that we're making the investment. People look at manufacturing and they think it's the old dirty factories of yesteryear, and it's not. The opportunities for people to go right into aerospace or right into manufacturing is unbelievable.
Yep.
And our goal is to make it so that we grow, our people grow. We want all of our people to be able to afford to send their kids to college, afford to buy houses, afford a good house,
raise a family, have a good life. And manufacturing really offers that opportunity to really get out there and do that. And you're seeing that at Atlas and amongst other places. I know you're out there a little bit too. I know you're a member of like the Aerospace Component Manufacturing, ACM, and some other stuff. What are you doing in those organizations? Well, what are you doing in those organizations to work on this kind of recruiting, training, opportunity? Another person I've talked to has said, Connecticut's jobs in search of a workforce. It sounds like you're echoing that a little bit.
Absolutely.
What do you see the private sector doing to help kind of foster and build that workforce for tomorrow?
The bigger companies are giving scholarships. They're bringing on paid interns.
Yep.
They get first pick at the colleges. When these kids are about to graduate, they get first picks. So we're working with the colleges to the level that we can.
Yep.
And, we're involved in what programs are out there. The state right now, Goodwin's working on a new program, metrology, and they've asked my opinion, and I've gone to many meetings and trying to hone in on what companies really need. So
you're investing your time as the CEO and leader of Atlas, going into some educational settings and trying to help them come up with a curriculum that's going to develop, that's going to create people that can work in kind of in your business. I think that's a really good thing to do. And listen, there's limited time, and I know you've got quality oversight you need to do. You're out there beating the bushes to try and develop new customer relationships and deepen existing ones. Not to mention overseeing everyone in the business, but in addition to that, spending time out there in the community, kind of helping the schools. So I think that's super powerful. Do you see ACM kind of getting involved in that as well?
Oh, ACM is very involved, very, very, very involved. And we're making headway.
Yep.
They're putting together, hopefully, a commission that's going to really work on tying all the services together.
Sure.
So that we're not duplicating, what program is over here and what program is over there, really streamlining the process to help companies and to help employees.
I'm with Marty Gray, VP of Business Development for Stanley Black & Decker.
Everyone has the same issues and same problems. We need to solve for the skills gap, and workforce development is step one.
Yep.
So that's something
you wouldn't be surprised to hear I hear that a lot.
Yeah. And the governor is really driving a consolidated and coordinated
effort to improve
around that.
Gap.
Yes, and I think there's more coming on that.
Do you see a lot of crossover? Because you talked about sort of like the 19,000 jobs from UTC directly, not to mention all the tens of thousands of other jobs from the supplier base. Are the skills that, say, the folks need to drive aerospace the same that we need to do what Stanley Black & Decker's doing across its business units, the same for EB, the same for, for the other kind of players?
There are skills that are what I would call very vertical, and they relate to if you're going to be working on, aerospace. There are certain definite skills that are just related to that. They may not be related to what we do, building tape measures in New Britain. But there's also these horizontal skills that are super important. One of them is digital fluency, digital proficiency.
Of course.
I mean, everyone needs that to participate in this society.
Totally. You're not going to get far without that. Yeah.
You're not going to get far without it. So people that are in the healthcare sector, in the life sciences sector, in the insurance sector, advanced manufacturing, they need that competency. So there's a lot of skills that are foundational to everything.
And we can build through that.
And we can build on that. So we should become the best digitally fluent state out there. That's something that could happen and get everyone kind of speaking. That's the new lingua franca of the world, right?
Absolutely.
Is digitization.
You got it.
And then, there are other things. It's not just knowledge-based skills, but there's abilities around problem solving, problem recognition, collaboration. You need to teach people how to do these things.
That's sort of somewhat innovation skills, kind of, right? It's problem-solving skills. And to your point, thinking, I don't know, three-dimensionally is the way I like to think about it, right? Looking at it.
Spatial thinker.
So, exactly. And kind of saying, here's a problem, how do we solve it? And really getting into that, getting away from, to your point earlier, about sort of where we're good with our hands and we're putting things together. That's got to be part of it. But in the future, a lot of the basic put together is going to be cobots, robots. So it's going to be more about how do we program them to do what they need to do? How do we think about problem solving?
Right.
And you see that as an area that's a cross industry. Yeah.
Everything. Because, I'm very clear when I meet with the college presidents and provosts, business does not want them to be a training center for our workforce.
Right.
What we actually are looking for is for them to produce very knowledgeable citizens who want to work hard and prosper in Connecticut, but have skills that are acknowledged with mega trends, whether they're around digital, whether they're around new ways to collaborate. There's new ways to collaborate in the world that didn't exist 10 years ago. We need
5 years ago. Yeah.
5 years ago, we need to teach people how to do this.
Right.
And lifelong learning and know that people are going to have to learn, unlearn, and relearn things all the time.
And that's where those fundamental skills come in.
Exactly.
If I know how to think and I know how to problem solve, then I can just implement the new thing to solve some problems. Are you guys going deeper than, the universities? Are you engaging any of sort of high school type educational level where, kind of get that going even before the college
Yeah,
place?
we talk to them. I mean, our workforce is 60,000 people. We believe we have to reskill 30,000 of those people in the next 10 years.
Wow.
So we need to create a learning organization internally. And as we do this and learn how to create lifelong learning programs and enable people how to learn, we actually are sharing these learnings with the state.
With the state so that they can use and implement that.
Absolutely. And we're working with some organizations like the Business Higher Education Forum in Washington to put together collaborations, this whole collaboration between academia and industry, to include the community colleges. And it's also, we may skill people up for the next 5 years, but they're going to have to know who knows what's going to look like.
Something different 10 years from now.
Right?
Absolutely.
What's it going to look like?
So I'm here with Glen Ford, president of Phoenix Manufacturing. Do you see recruiting and talent acquisition as one of the key struggles in Phoenix's future success?
I think that's in the state of Connecticut right now. I chair the Advanced Manufacturers Employers Partnership. They call it AMEP for short. Mm-hmm. Our single strategic vision is to retain, recruit, retain, and then train people to be able to do a better job wherever they work. Right now, we have a very huge vacuum for what I call M or I 4.0 or 3.0, either one. 3.0 right now is CNC manufacturing and advanced manufacturing. It's the state of the art today. We have not trained our previous generations to be machinists or to be welders or to be good construction workers, or even, medical's been pretty good, but there's still some gaps in it. Yep. So in the state of Connecticut, because we have let the infrastructure degrade for the vocational school system, because we have let arts and industrial arts out of our high school because of budgetary concerns. Now what's happened is we've our parents wanted us to have a better life. They wanted us to go to college. They wanted us to be doctors and businessmen and financial experts. Well, there's no machinists left. There's no welders left. There's no really good construction people who are in the trades, electricians.
Is the why behind that even really important at this point? I mean, I was going to ask the question. It is. We are where we are. How we got here it is what it is.
Spot on, Ari. But now what are we going to do about filling the short gap?
Yep.
Okay. So we work with this Nantucket, Goodwin College, Manchester Community College, to try to help the colleges understand what the curricula should be. So then when they train these people coming into the business, they're training them to do the job the right way. And then when they graduate from these institutions, they can come into the workforce and be productive workers.
Okay.
The other half of it is we don't even know what I 4.0 is. So I 4.0, for people who may not understand, it's the new industrial revolution where we're talking about robotics, additive manufacturing, cobots, if you've ever heard of such a thing.
Augmented reality training, all that kind of, there's some cool stuff going on in that area.
It's unbelievable. And, we have a huge robot at Phoenix, right? It's a big robotic system. The machines work with the robot works with the people. At the end of the day, the machines even give you a call. They text you and say, hey, I need you to to help me run, you know? And that's just, I think, again, it's Glen's view, right? It's the tip of the iceberg on I-4.0. I really believe that there's going to be a huge depth to this that we haven't even explored yet. You know, I took a trip to BMO in Italy. It's their technology convention. And the Italians and all of the Europeans are extremely interested in I-4.0, and they're moving in that direction very rapidly. We have to move that with that kind of velocity here in
And so what are the skills that you, I mean, are we, well, I guess let me start with this, right? Are we headed on that path already and we need to go faster? We're missing the mark. What kind of training are you thinking that we need to start putting into place to be ready for Industry 4.0?
Robotics. We got to teach
like courses on robotics, like get the robots, like where we used to have the sort of like the high school shop class with like the lift for the car or whatever. We'd have robots, cobots, and stuff like that. And is that where you're going with this?
Right. And like, you know, there's no panacea. There's no silver bullet here. I'm of the thinking that you know, the manufacturers of robots, they can manufacture certain robots that maybe they're defective in its entirety, but it still can be used. And maybe instead of scrapping it, they can donate it to a school, for instance. Somehow, some way, we have to have some kind of collaboration with the schools to improve the technology that they have in their infrastructure. You know, trying to move technical training, advanced manufacturing into a comprehensive high school today is probably not the direction you want to go, although many people believe it is, just by virtue of the fact that the infrastructure is wrong. Right? You got to get 20,000 amps into a high school. That's $1 million, right? So, you know, but we have vocational schools.
So you're thinking, let's not try and necessarily bring back shop to the comprehensive school, but really look at bringing out the vocational schools, the VOTEC schools all over the state, and also the community college. I mean, you're talking about secondary ed, or you're going really all of it?
Dual track systems, right? Okay. So, for the vocational schools, the infrastructure is there. Improve the machines. Improve the you know, you got to get the teachers there to be able to teach the students. Bring them through a level where they can get up to advanced manufacturing. When they graduate from the vocational school, those kids, if they go to university for engineering, are going to be much better engineers than if they went through a comprehensive high school, because they know what a machine does. They know what welding's all about. They know auto mechanics. Whatever it is, they've been exposed to some really technical stuff. So then if you do decide to become a machinist or a welder, graduate from the vocational school, go into some of these great community colleges that we're starting to establish today, and take that learning another step further. Improve their knowledge, improve their talent. Give them 5-axis machining. Give them CAD
really
and
get
CAM.
them in there to see what's going on.
And that's only 3.0.
Right.
So now 4.0. We I was with Tracy Ariel last week for Manchester Community College, and she said, "Well, what do we need to do to get to the next level?" And I said, I-4.0. And she sort of, she says, "That's a loaded question." She actually said that, and everyone sort of laughed. And she said, "Glenn, we want to get there, but where do we find the money?"
Right. Is funding the biggest constraint right now? You think the lack of support, is that what's causing the lack of funding? I mean, you know, what are you seeing out there? You're in the trenches on this fight. You know, what do you see?
I think funding is a trick word.
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking for funding from the state of Connecticut, you know, we're on a fiscal diet right now.
Yeah.
You know, Governor Lamont, he's really trying to turn the state around. Whether you love him or you hate him, we're getting good ratings now. You know, Commissioner Lehman just sent out a note and said, "Hey, look what the state of Connecticut's doing. We're getting better ratings than we ever had in the past 8 years." Funding there is going to be tough to get, I believe, unless you know, our legislators see the value in that, and I hope they do, because there's great value in that. Outside of that, there are private investors who are just trying to find ways to spend their money. Some donations are tax deductible. I don't know if our you know, path to understanding where the funding can come from is strong enough with a community college or some vocational school where we can have those funds flow in from private investors. I'm not, you know, that knowledgeable about what that system how that would look like.
Yeah, how it could work. Or not.
It's tough when you got a private investor investing in a high school or a vocational school. But, I always say, if you want to be something different, you got to do something different you've never done before.
I'm here this week with Jameson Scott, Executive Vice President of Air Handling Systems and the Executive Director of the New Haven Manufacturing Association.
Through economic development and workforce and education, all of them together. I think about Wallingford and what they're doing with the hubcap down there. And that is a cooperative effort between education and the business community. Wallingford has a huge manufacturing base. Yep. The Economic Development Commission understands that. And the educational system understands that. Sal Menzo, the superintendent there, is really doing incredible stuff.
Do you find any resistance, or maybe I shouldn't put it that way, are you guys taking efforts to educate parents? Because one thing that's certainly come up in conversations we've had with other podcast guests and just manufacturers we work with in general is sometimes it's really getting parents to support their kids and kind of going down that road.
Students, parents, and guidance counselors. So again, this Hamden program is a great example of that. That program, just to sort of explain it a little bit more, it's the Hamden Engineering Career Academy. Those students started July 1st. 35 students started. Those students will graduate in 4 years with upwards of a manufacturing engineering technology associate's degree from Gateway, 68 college credits. They can potentially earn a month before they get their high school diploma. Wow. And so that's a one of a kind in the state. That's a program where we started about 2 years ago. I was addressing a group of superintendents in South Central Connecticut. One of them was the superintendent from Hamden, and long story short, a couple meetings led to, they were trying to do something. They saw the opportunity. They started learning about the opportunities through NHMA, and they really honed in on building this engineering career academy. July 1st, the first group of students came in. Every one of them spoke passionately about their interest in manufacturing and engineering as incoming freshmen to high school. So that was the start of the program. But circling back to what you were talking about, parents, we had to recruit these students, these 35 students. Originally, we had slots. We were guessing for about 18 to 25. We had so much interest, they had to open it up to 2 cohorts of roughly 18 each. Parents, we had over 125 families interested in this because they saw my kid could be in high school and also earn an associate's degree from Gateway at no cost to me. They can graduate high school with 2 years of college under their belt already.
It's a big deal. That's a big deal, starting a big leg up, and especially if you could consider what it would cost to go to college, right. That's amazing.
And so we're addressing that in many different ways. So this is just one of those programs.
Do you see a program like that grow? I mean, 35 is a great start, right? But to your point, if we're looking at 4,000 to 6,000 jobs or 6 to 10 jobs now growing to 25,000 jobs, we'd need to replicate a lot of 35 cohorts to make that happen. Is that growing? What do you see in that area?
I hope so. And that's why I'm excited about this program. It's the first of its kind of state. It's just like anything. We have to, get people to see and hear what we're doing there. So this morning I spoke to the students. We brought in local media, so they're covering the event. There was a groundbreaking the governor was at. Well, it was a wall breaking technically because we weren't breaking ground. But so the governor came, the lieutenant governor came. We had some local folks there. That's what gets us to the next step, is replicating this program. Derby has a manufacturing center. Derby Manufacturing Center is a little bit different. Their focus is really CNC programming, getting the entry-level machinist, basically. These are not cheap programs. That's the challenge. The Hamden program's $500,000. The Derby program's $1 million. The state's on a debt diet right now. So while we want to see more of these, quite frankly, we don't have the funding, which circles back to the importance of working with the federal government, because if there's funding opportunities to replicate these, I think that's where we have some opportunity.
And what's the funding requirements for these programs? Is a lot of it like physical plant machinery that you need to do the training? Is it special teachers? Like kind of what's the funding going towards there?
It's the machinery, it's outfitting, it's not cheap stuff. It's easier to start up other programs and manufacturing programs because the machinery is not cheap. There are organizations that certainly help support it. The Haas Foundation is great. We have CNC controllers from them, so the students can learn to program on the controller. So you don't need the $100,000 piece of machinery behind it. You can learn on the module and then get one machine in there. Hamden, we're going to have at least one CNC machine. We're going to have some lathes. We're going to have some 3D printers. So they'll get an exposure to this. The program over in Derby, they have a lot more equipment. It costs a lot more money.
That's exciting. So, I mean, it sounds like you're really in the trenches, helping kind of move things forward on this workforce development issue. And it sounds like we're making a lot of progress, at least from what I'm hearing from you and I've heard from other folks. It feels like we're starting to, turn the tide. As always, thanks so much for tuning in. I definitely want your feedback and hope you subscribe. But what I want the most is to build a community where we learn and grow with each other. I hope you're getting a lot of value out of the time we're spending together. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by IT Direct.